Whew. Apparently, I'm never getting rid of that smoker's cough.
You have to work out more? Even that, I'm not even sure you can.
Well, I do need to work out more. That's a true statement. I have been definitely slacking this past semester. For some crazy reason, I feel like I've had a very busy life this past semester, and I have no idea why.
Well, I was thinking that asking you to record at 8 was probably going to be okay, considering your goal for the year.
Yeah, no, I was fine. I was up. My sleep schedule kind of got shifted a little bit when I got sick. And so I've been clawing it back, slowly but surely. But, 8 was plenty fine. It's not like I'm sleeping until noon anymore. I'm not that kind of youngin'. Hey, I was up, I was playing games, I was having a cup of coffee. I'm ready for this.
All right. Welcome to My Hill to Die On, episode 80.
Everyone has things they're passionate about.
Things we want our friends to try and experience.
So we've convinced each other to try different things.
And we talk about these experiences to see if we can get just one more person
to join us on our hill to die on.
I feel like this January, I haven't worked as much as I normally would because of all the breaks and things.
It has felt like, not that we haven't been working, but the fact that the momentum keeps getting halted.
At the same time, though, I don't feel like I'm behind, which I'm very pleased about, right? Yeah, of course, there's more things we could have done, but it's not like we're falling behind on anything specifically.
No. Although I probably should be further ahead on a few things in the classes, but...
Yeah, okay. To me, it started at the end of January with... I took almost 2 full days to go see my daughter play in her basketball games, her end of the season tournament. So it started for me there. And then the end of that week, there was enough staff that were absent that basically we had to cancel school because we didn't have enough staff to have school.
Hey, I was there. I was present.
Yeah, both of us were there.
I shouldn't have been there, but I was there.
That's true. You actually probably should have been home, yes, okay? You just didn't quite have... You needed one more symptom, Ryan. One more symptom could have done it.
Because, coughing and the fever had gone. I didn't have a fever anymore. So, how can you stay home sick if you don't have a fever? But no, I probably should have stayed at home more because I wasn't getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really the problem, was I wasn't getting better. And there were a lot of other staff who were sick who... actually stayed home. Well, I say this. I stayed home one day. I did stay home one day. But we had a lot of staff who were actually staying home and, doing probably what you're supposed to do to recover, rather than the crazy man who decides to, no, I still need to teach my classes.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, we had 25 people out that one day.
Mm-hmm.
But I think part of that was also due to the tournaments.
Part of that was due to the tournaments, but even the day the tournaments ended, there was still something like 13, 14 people out.
Yeah.
When everyone was back. So it was not just due to that, but the tournaments helped.
I'm just going to blame the tournaments because then I can say, the real problem was sports.
Sure.
Sports ball. That was the real problem. I'm kidding.
Yeah. Then, the Tuesday following that was a snow day.
Oh, yeah.
Which was pretty funny because Japan, well, at least here in Tokyo, it's definitely different further north.
Yeah,
but here in Tokyo, they threaten, and then nothing happens most of the time.
They're like, oh, snow is coming, and usually it's like there is a dusting or a frosting on the grass.
Right, and then the rain comes right after that and washes it all away.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite get cold enough. But
we had actual snow.
Snow.
We had enough that I saw a couple of businesses that had snowmen outside their front.
I
because
probably got to 6 centimeters. It's not, 3 inches. It was not small.
well, I mean, that is small, but
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. It's not small for Tokyo.
it's definitely not small for Tokyo.
But of course, it did the normal Tokyo thing of closing everything down because they've not heard of plows in Tokyo. Well, it's not that they've not heard of them. They're just not willing to have them because it snows so infrequently that why would you have one?
Yeah, it would mean an investment that you use once every 3 years.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, actually, I was going to say 2, but 3 is probably accurate. And, why would you have all of this snow equipment just for that one time? I get it. It makes sense. It's not like you're, Chicago or New York State where it snows feet at a time, so you have to have stuff ready all the time.
Home sweet home.
Yeah. No, it snows once every blue moon here, or once every 10 blue moons, and then it melts and goes away. I mean, it's already pretty much all melted already, even now.
Yeah, I mean, the only spots that I saw left were the spots that people had pushed the snow up into or shoveled the snow up into to make a larger pile to get it out of the way of like roads and things like that. And those are the only bits that are left.
Right. And those piles that are on the north side of buildings, right? If it's in the sun side, then it's already gone.
Yeah.
But if it's on the north side or the shady side, it's still there. So it has to be in complete shade all day for it to remain at this point.
But all that to say, yeah, I agree. I do think that there's been a lot of starting and stopping that's been going on, that the momentum is hard to keep up right now. I will fully admit that after everybody left on Friday, I was the last one at work because I was being a bit of a curmudgeon about the fact that I felt like I had not gotten enough done. And I was like, I need to get a little bit more done before I leave for the long weekend. Because yes, now that we've had all of these surprise breaks, now we have the scheduled break.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Now we've got 2 days off for winter break right now.
Yeah, because the biggest struggle was we had the sick day, then we had the snow day, and then in the same week as the snow day, the Friday was student conferences.
Yes.
So it meant that in the past 2 weeks, I've basically lost 3 days of classes, which, given that we're on block scheduling, means that I had maybe 4 classes apiece for each of my classes. And now, this coming week, Monday and Tuesday are off, so I only have 3 more classes this coming week total. So it means that in this 3-week period, there is one of my classes that will receive 5 classes and one of my classes that will have reached 6 classes.
Yep.
This is why I think for me it feels really rough, especially because I teach a lot of classes that are on the semester system where we have a new group of students at the semester. And guess what just happened right before all these breaks started? We swapped over into the new semester. So I have a bunch of kids who I've only gotten to talk through like the introduction to the idea of Proverbs. Or, hey, we're going to talk about an introduction to Christian theology. Okay, so we've only gotten through like the idea of God and introduced like Trinitarian theology. And then like I was able to say, hey, there's this idea of Trinitarian theology. We'll finish this up next class. And then we haven't had another class in a week.
So they really want to know what's going on.
Because, leaving them on Trinitarian theology is always a place where people are like, oh, yeah, that's an easy breaking point that I can keep all of this in my brain.
Now they're on the edge of their seats. It was the hugest cliffhanger ever, Ryan.
Yeah. So wait, you're saying 3 in 1 and...
How does that work?
Yeah. Anyway, so it was that. And then my politics kids are in the middle of working on essentially their school improvement project. And I'm sure that none of them are as far along on the project as I want them to be.
Yeah, probably. But that is a project that tends to, because students are being asked to take larger steps than they normally have taken in life, it's a project that tends to fall behind, I would think, right?
Well, not just that. It's also a project that I really find that I have three types of groups, because this is all a group project. There is the group that throws themselves into this because they really want something to happen. They get really determined. They produce some amazing, amazing work. There's the group that underestimates what they need to do to convince everybody to get on board with their thing. One of those groups that they're like, I can't imagine anybody disagreeing with wanting this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so they half-heartedly put together this project. And so they don't really think through all the things. And then there's the group that always say, tomorrow is another day. I got this tomorrow, and keep procrastinating. So we have the really vibrant, like high quality work, the rushed work at the end because of procrastination, and then the a little too cocky work that believes that everybody should probably agree with them. Those tend to be the groups that I end up with, I realize.
I think I've worked with at least, two groups. Well, one was an individual. She might have been representing a group that had tech problems. And one of them, she said, like, yeah, this is going to be a simple problem. I'll walk in, I'll tell you tech people how to do it, and we'll be okay. And then when I told her all what was involved, she was like, oh my goodness, there's way more involved than I expected. I do not have the answer, and then backed away.
Yeah, that's one of the things I added into this year was I made it a requirement that everybody had to interview with an adult involved with the thing.
Good.
I know that I have one group that has already arranged to have 5 interviews.
Oh, good. Okay.
Because they're really trying to get a grasp on like what's going on and why is it going on and all that jazz.
Well, and I was going to say the other group that I worked with had ideas, but it was hard for me to. They had some good ideas, and they asked me, and then and then I would say, oh well, that doesn't work because of this, this, and this, and they're like, oh, we didn't realize that, and then it was too bad because their final idea, they probably just hadn't gotten a chance to show me. Also didn't work because of this, that, or that too. So like it's like I almost wish they had kept coming to me with their ideas and asking me about this and asking me about this, because by the time they got to the final one, it was like, yeah, that's not going to work either. So I don't know. I was a little bit saddened by that because they were trying.
Yeah, and that's the thing is a lot of them do really try. Mm-hmm. A lot of them really do put forth a lot of effort. The majority of our students tend to fit into that first category. I just wanted to bring up the other 2 categories simply because I do recognize that those are other results from a project this, I don't want to say big because it's not a big project, but it is a deep project, one that they actually have to do a lot more critical thinking on.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I have some interesting projects coming up. Actually, one group is arguing that we need to have a drama department.
Okay.
And I'm like, yeah, we do. I agree. We do need to have a drama department. Who's going to teach it? When are we going to have time? Where are we going to put it?
Yep. Yeah, practical problems.
Because, who could possibly teach it in this school right now? There are a bunch of people who like drama, but I don't know if there's anybody like classically trained in teaching drama.
Right.
Like, I mean, for example, I've been through tons of drama classes. I could potentially teach one. Do I think that, I should? Probably not. I have enough on my plate. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, let's face it. Nate, if I got one more class, they're really going to be taking so much of my tech away from me that I'm going to get like one project done in a year.
We hired you because you were a teacher that could do tech. not to teach, Ryan. You're supposed to do tech. You were to understand teachers so that you can help them out. But you're supposed to do tech, Ryan. Tech.
You say that, but I do think that you do at the very least appreciate the needs of the school and the fact that this is a good fit for me.
Yeah. This is why I allow you to teach. I mean, I'm not allowing you.
You are allowing me to teach. Let's face it. I would probably do it anyway.
While I agree with those who ask if it's okay if you teach with some of your contract time. Yes.
With some of my contract time, you do realize I'm up to like 55% now.
I know.
Actually, the thing that made me laugh the most was in thinking about contracts the other day. Mm-hmm. I realized that, yes, I only teach 3 blocks, but I do teach 4 classes, which technically do need 4 different kind of preps, and a full-time teacher, 100% contract teacher, teaches 5 classes. I look at that and I'm like, I teach 4 classes. Yes, 3 blocks, but 4 classes. A full teacher teaches 5 classes, and I'm also doing all my tech work.
But you're only doing 3 preps a week.
Yeah, in theory.
Okay.
In theory, I'm only doing 3 preps a week.
Oh, okay, sorry. Preps for 3 classes.
Yeah.
3 preps a week is still misleading, but anyway.
Yeah, I have 3 classes to prep per week.
Right.
Yes, in theory. Because, I say in theory because with the changeover with quarters, it gets hectic sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm not trying to say that I need more time in teaching. I mean, I just need more time in a day.
Yeah, I could go with that. So, you know how you have to get your car inspected, right, Ryan?
Yeah.
So I was thinking the other day, before Christmas break, this is a while ago, I guess now, I was thinking, I wonder when my car gets inspected, because I have an app on my phone that warns me a bunch of things. You know, when is the insurance due? When is the road tax due? All of this stuff. It keeps alerting me that these are coming. So I was thinking, it hasn't told me about inspection in a while. So I took a look at the sticker on my car after asking a friend, which sticker am I having to pay attention to? Because there's a bunch of stickers. And I looked at the sticker and it said 12 for December. And it was December. I was like, oh, okay, this month. And then I looked at the year and I'm like, wait a minute. It's Reiwa 4 and this sticker says Reiwa 3. I'm a year overdue. So, which is also explains why I didn't get the road tax bill from last year, because that alert came up and then the road tax never came. Whoops. So I found that out. So I talked to my friend and he knows a guy that can do registration. And I would say that, and in Japan we call that shaken. And I would say that inspection registration here in Japan is a little bit different than America. You kind of send your car off to a mechanic and he will do the Does he do the... I think... I've been trying to figure out if he actually does the inspection himself or brings it somewhere to get inspected also. I can't quite get an answer on that, because I've heard that you can do the whole inspection by yourself too. But then, of course, it's harder and you'd have to fill out more paperwork and blah, blah, blah. So it's almost everybody just brings to the mechanic and they do everything for you, which is fine because usually you need some kind of repair. But my car is fairly new enough and I don't have any issues with it that I kind of figured I didn't need any repairs, which was the case this time also. But I did have this guy do an oil change for me at the time because I drive so little that I basically get my oil changed once a year. I don't even get to 5,000 kilometers, but I get my oil changed once a year instead. So this guy was going to do everything for me. And it worked out pretty well. He took a little longer because he's a private guy. He's not a mechanic. I mean, he's a mechanic. He does other things on the side, and he deals in cars.
I really hope he deals in cars, considering the fact that, he's working on your car.
No, but I mean, sorry, he's a car dealer.
Oh, okay.
He does deal with cars, but he also he sells them too.
Oh, good. Okay.
He said he couldn't get it done because he was going to a car auction the next day. And I was like, oh, that sounds actually kind of fun. I wanted to know more about that. But so it took a little longer to get it done because of the car auction. But he was fairly cheap, so I was very pleased with the price I paid. One of the problems came up right afterwards was that there was a slight oil leak, which I didn't notice. And this is why, in some ways, I'm telling the story now, because it must have dripped very slowly out of the car, because it would form a puddle. But the puddle was very tiny, but the puddle was always there in my driveway. And I don't drive my car that often, so my car just kind of sits there most of the time. I was texting him saying, I think there's an oil leak. You changed my oil, there's an oil leak. Something's going on. The oil light wasn't coming on, so it wasn't urgent. And this guy ended up having some personal problems, and he couldn't come to me right away, which was fine because it's not urgent. Yes, I'm dripping oil, but it's a drip. It's not like gushing or a big issue or coming out the tailpipe or anything. I'm not burning any oil. So he did eventually come this past weekend, and he said apparently he didn't quite tighten the drain plug enough, which at first I was thinking must have been the oil filter because he probably changed the oil filter. But nope, he didn't quite tighten the drain plug. But that is all sorted out now. And shaken, so shaken was not cheap. It's like hundreds of dollars, even if you do it yourself. And then I paid this guy a little bit of a premium to get the oil change done and stuff. And he had to charge me the back road tax that he paid out of his pocket because I was a year behind. So he paid the road tax for me, and then I had to pay him back because he has to do that when he gets the shot can done. And then I asked him to look at my tires, which were cracking on the walls, and I was a little bit worried about that. I actually don't know how old these tires were because they came on the car, and I've owned my car for about 5 years now. So I am wondering if they're actually original tires, in which case they'd probably be about 6 years old. So I probably should have gotten this changed sooner, but the tires, they weren't wearing because, again, I don't drive terribly much. The wear condition was fine, but they were definitely cracking on the sidewalls. So he took a look and he said, yeah, you really should get them replaced. So I said, okay. So this weekend, I did also purchase new tires, which were, again, a couple $100. So my car has now cost me a lot of money in the past few months. One might ask, why do you have a car in Japan?
Why do you have a car in Japan?
Because you kind of need one for certain things.
Really?
To get certain places, yes, you need a car. To get certain places conveniently, you need a car.
There we go.
The other thing is, because of the sheer number of people in my family, it is often cheaper to go by car than train. The problem is just owning the car for the long term. That's where the cost is. It's cheaper in the trip to get 5 people one place to another. But then, and especially now that in a few months, my second daughter will now be paying adult fare on the train. So now I will be paying more fare in the train than before. But yeah, it's often cheaper in the trip. I mean, it's also definitely more convenient. You know, it means we can stay at Disney for longer, Ryan. I mean, these are the important things.
Those are the important things?
You know, staying at Disney for longer. That's how it works. It definitely gives us a lot more freedom in travel for vacations, which is one of the things that we use it for often. So yeah, you know, these are the important things. I mean, I do find when we were newly married and we didn't have a car, it was way cheaper to take the train everywhere and to take the occasional taxi for the places that are more convenient by car. That was much cheaper. And it worked fairly well, I would say, too. And it's much easier to call taxis now on your phone. I mean, well, calling taxis with an app, is much easier nowadays than it used to be when you had to have phone numbers in my phone for all the taxi companies. Yeah, I like my car. I like my car a lot. Actually, it's a really nice car.
I know you've done things where it was your favorite new thing in a year.
I know. It was my favorite new thing. I guess 4 years ago now, I guess, huh?
3.
I probably talked about it 3 years ago. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I would say that most people don't need cars. I mean, obviously you don't have one.
Yeah, I definitely don't have a car.
And it's completely fine. Do you even take an occasional taxi? I guess you don't too often, huh?
No, I rely pretty heavily on just the trains.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to work out fine for you too, probably.
Yeah, works out great.
Yeah, I used to take the train a lot. I don't take it as much, but, I mean, yes, it's because I own a car, but at the same time, it's because I used to go downtown a lot with the train. I just don't anymore. I mean, part of that's actually Amazon is the reason why I don't go downtown as much.
Amazon's the problem.
It is. Well, it's also the solution for us in some ways. I mean, part of the thing is I used to go downtown to buy things, and I'd go down there, and they wouldn't have what I wanted, and that was always super frustrating. Now, Amazon, well, you can know right away whether they have it or not. I remember one trip, I mean, I would go downtown for school every 2 weeks to buy tech supplies. And usually I'd come back with 2 humongous bags that I'd be carrying back to school. And one time I went down to get like this, and this, and they had like 3 of the 10 items on my list. And of the 7 items that were missing, like 5 of them were critical. And it's like, they don't have it. And what do? I really needed them, and they didn't have it. And it was super frustrating. So I don't have those problems anymore with Amazon.
No. But they are destroying the world.
I just have new problems with Amazon. It's not the same problems. They're just new ones.
Yeah. Nate, for this episode, we are finishing out a lovely, lovely dystopian story.
Right. And we couldn't do yet another pick 2 rocks. So we had to come up with something else. I was like, what can we do? Pick 2. Yeah. And you said you had another rock one coming up too.
So we can't do rock music because I'm going to tell you right now, the next death book has to do with rock music.
Yep. So you said that. So we're not doing rock music. Saving that for later. Couldn't do, pick 2 earthquakes. There was some story one I was thinking too, but I was like, nah, that's no good. So then I pulled out the trusty list of, when we first decided to do pick 2, I wrote down a whole bunch of things we could do pick 2 with, right?
Uh-huh.
We've done like 2 of those things. Because we've been able to find things that work with the story pretty well.
Pretty well. There were a couple that were a bit stretches.
Yeah, there are some stretchy ones, but and this might end up on the stretchier side, but still not too bad.
No, and I think that sometimes having something more broad is actually also really good, because at the end of the day, it gives us the ability to talk about things, in this case, stories, and other forms of media that fall into a similar category to what we're reading.
Right, and I like these picks because generally speaking, we're picking stuff that we're not going to pick as a main media later on in the series. Right, so I'm kind of picking things that are good, but I'm not going to pick it as a main media. So it would never come up there.
All right. Well, so we're gonna pick. Is it favorite dystopias? Is it just dystopias that you want to talk about?
Yep, I think we're just 2 dystopian stories.
2 dystopian stories.
Or post-apocalyptic was the word I was using.
Post-apocalyptic. Yes, that's better. Rather than dystopia. So, 2 post-apocalyptic stories.
Right.
So there has been an apocalypse. We are now in the after times. What are your stories?
All right, I'm going to pick Wall-E.
Ooh, okay, good one.
I enjoy it. It is a Pixar movie, one that I enjoy. I kind of like the premise of, yes, it follows kind of a 2001 vibe of the AI is trying to rule things. But there's so much more hope in this story that the AI is kind of sidelined. I mean, yes, that's a plot point, but it is a plot point and not the main plot. I think that's one of the things I like about this story. And even the whole post-apocalyptic thing is kind of a plot point. It is not the main thing of the story. Where the main, you take a look at Pixar movies and, it's focusing on love or loss or this, that, or the other thing, right? And Wall-E is definitely one that's focusing on love. And so the post-apocalyptic's on the sideline, the AI is on the sideline, but it's all in service of the plot of telling about one robot loving another robot. And yeah, that love is not always romantic, and that give and take, blah, blah, blah. All kinds of good stuff in that movie. But I do kind of like that the sidelined plots of the AI and just the people on the ship and what did it mean to be on the ship is sidelined, but there's enough richness in there that you can kind of see where they went post-apocalyptic. This happened, and then they went off, and they're waiting for the Earth to settle down again, and they're going to come back, and there's hope there too. So anyway, I like that there's richness in the post-apocalyptic sideline story, that you can kind of imagine it, picture it, and build your own mental, like, this is what I think they would do, and blah, blah, blah.
Wall-E is such a good pick because it is not just apocalyptic, but it is also a cozy apocalypse. Like, you don't wander around and see like tons of essentially corpses just lying about.
Well, it's because everything's about cleaning up.
Yeah, everything's about cleaning up, and humanity still exists. I think it is cozy apocalypse is about the best as I can come up with.
No, I think it's not a bad way of describing it. As a sideline, my daughters have decided to do a Pixar like watch through kind of thing. This kind of happened with, they watched Monsters Inc. No, I'm sorry. They watched Monsters University and then Monsters Inc. They watched them in chronological order, not in
release order.
Yeah, not in release order. And so they were like, oh, we could watch all the Pixar movies in order. So then they went back and watched Toy Story and watched Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3, and they finished Toy Story 4 last night. And they're watching them in basically in series order, I guess. Well, because after they watched Monsters University, they're like, okay, well, we can watch all the Pixar movies. So then they started with Toy Story 1, but then they wanted to move on to 2, 3, and 4, so in the series. And they'll watch Lightyear next before moving on to Bug's Life. Then they'll go back to Bug's Life. I think they might skip Monsters Inc. because they watched that one already, but then they'll go on to Incredibles, and they'll watch Incredibles 1 and 2.
What about the short in between?
The Jack ones?
Yeah, the Jack ones.
They didn't say they're going to get into the shorts. Maybe they'll have to do that later.
Important systematic stories that are integral to the plot. And
Well, what was interesting to me was watching, again, a movie that was kind of not widely liked was Monsters University. And I actually I really liked the feeling of that movie. The feeling of the animation, how the hair worked, how the light worked. As somebody who watched it a lot when my kids were growing up, and it's funny because my daughters don't always remember these movies, right?
Mm.
Especially like Monsters University. We watched that a lot when they were growing up. And I've seen a lot of bits of that movie. And yeah, I'm not sure it's a great movie plot-wise, and some things are weird, but the feeling of the animation and the way it's lit and everything like that, it's just a great feeling movie. I like that part of it a lot, as somebody who's watched it many times. They were also very shocked at how often I was saying, like Toy Story 1 in 1995 was the first computer animated movie. And they're like, yeah, but it doesn't even look that much different than the other ones. I was like, nah, it looks different. But still, it was still amazing at the time. And still is amazing now. Quite fun. Anyway, sorry.
All right.
Your pick.
My pick. I think I'm going to start with a game. Because here's the thing. I realize that games and movies are prime for this post-apocalypse.
No, I agree. This is why I picked a movie too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There are some really good books as well that are post-apocalypse, but most of the books that I think of that are post-apocalypse, I would probably want to bring up as a actual pick later for an episode.
I agree. This is why I picked movies, because books I'm going to save for later. Movies, though, I'll bring up movies.
But games and movies are great for this. And the problem is I have too many that I want to pick from.
It's good that you pick from games. That's a good thing.
Yeah, well, I decided that I was going to pick from games because if I picked from games, there is a possibility that I'll be able to talk about a game that we haven't talked about yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to choose a post-apocalyptic game that is a tabletop game.
Okay.
And I think I've told you about this game before, but you personally, not you on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called Paranoia. So this is a tabletop game. In the game of Paranoia, you live in a underground bunker. Sorry, I just realized when this game was originally produced. 1984.
Oh, it's a little older than you, huh?
Well, not just that. Think about what is the other significant thing with 1984.
The book, huh?
So essentially, you are in an underground bunker is usually the setting, and you are a troubleshooter. You are a troubleshooter who is supposed to help correct any issues or problems under the benevolent ruler of your city or bunker, who is named Friend Computer.
Nice.
Friend Computer is the controller of the entire society and has ultimate authority over everything that happens. And you need to make sure that you are keeping an eye out for things that are against the will of Friend Computer. So you need to make sure that you prevent threats to things that Friend Computer deems as threats, which generally are mutants, traitors, and people in secret societies. Now, originally, when this game was made, it was mutants, traitors, and communists. Which
changed.
gives you an idea of when it was made.
Yeah. Well, 84 is, height of the Cold War.
Yeah. So the entire time you are doing this, the other thing to note is every one of the player characters is usually a mutant, part of a secret society, or a traitor. And they're all trying to hide that fact from Friend Computer. And so the entire time you are playing the game, you are essentially trying to, A, keep under the radar of Friend Computer, and B, try to out everyone else so that they get attacked by Friend Computer. And when you are destroyed by Friend Computer, you are immediately replaced usually by a clone. It is very tongue-in-cheek, very designed to be kind of like a mix of like Brave New World, Logan's Run kind of stuff with like a little bit of Soylent Green kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that kind of... And yes, 1984, of course. So a lot of like essentially the government, in this case, Friend Computer, is watching over you, and you need to make sure that you are obeying Friend Computer, and you're just going around trying to solve problems. It is a pen and paper RPG. So it is think D&D, except you are in a a dystopian future where everything is run by a computer and you are trying to out your other players so that you are the winner of paranoia. The name is largely because so much of it is trying to be a little bit paranoid about what everybody else is doing. All right, so one of the things in the game, secret societies tend to be based on sketchy and spurious knowledge of historical matters. For example, previous editions of societies have included things like the Seal Club, which idolizes the outdoors but are unsure of what plants and animals actually look like. Because keep in mind, they are in this underground bunker. Other societies include the Knights of the Circular Object, Trekkies, and the First Church of Christ Computer Programmer.
Okay.
The setting of the main game is an immense futuristic city called Alpha Complex. Alpha Complex is controlled by the computer, a civil service AI construct. The computer serves as the game's principal antagonist and fears a number of threats to its perfect society, such as the outdoors, mutants, and secret societies, especially communists. To deal with these threats, the computer employs troubleshooters, whose job it is to go out, find trouble, and shoot it.
Very literal. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that kind of gives you a vibe. It is very much a dystopian future where everybody lives underground. Nobody knows what the past was like. And it is designed to be very tongue-in-cheek, very, very silly, very humorous. And you're always trying to do things to out your other players. Some of them get interesting where you have like certain jobs where like you have one person who's in charge of like being the happiness officer, and you have one person who's in charge of being the hygiene officer, and you have things like that. And it tends to be all of the terrible like dystopian world government oversight control novels. It's taken all of those and dialed them up to 11. It is a very silly story, a very silly game, but it is a lot of fun, especially if you have people who really get into it.
I mean, one of the things that looks nice is it looks like it's still got a good I mean, for a game that came out in 1984, it still looks like it's got a good following. They've got a very active website, so pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it came out in 1984. They have re-released, you know how like the Dungeons and Dragons we play is 5th edition?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are several other editions that have come out since then. The most recent was like a 2017 edition.
They got a bunch of things for sale, so
you
can get well into this, it looks like.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, it is a very silly, tongue-in-cheek kind of dystopian game. So what this is saying to me is, clearly, this is the next game we need to play together.
Okay, sure. Can you play it on a podcast?
Yes, it's just like D&D.
Good. Well, maybe.
Don't threaten me. I might actually do it. So that was a silly game that I wanted to talk about. All right, what's your next one?
All right, my next one. I was thinking of a few. I enjoyed Interstellar as a movie. That was a fun one. But I think the one that had more meaning to me was The Matrix.
Okay.
From 1999, which feels like forever ago now.
1999. Ah, the good old days of 99. Which I mean, again, 25 years ago now.
Long time ago, this movie. Yeah, isn't that amazing? Keanu Reeves, he's really old. One of the things I liked about this movie, and I think I've come to realize it even more nowadays too, is I think this movie introduced me to the fact that your mind is capable of deciding many things, right? And one of the things that always seemed simple to me was if you believe it to be a simulation, then it will be a simulation, right? I mean, that's kind of what the movie kind of comes to Keanu Reeves' character. If he decides that it's a simulation, it will be a simulation, and then he can just continue to manipulate it, right? And I think that's true a lot in life too. If you decide something to be true, you can continue to believe it, right? And I've always taken that to be the positive, taken that into the positive realm, right? Like, decide that I'm having fun and I'll have fun. Let's do that.
Sorry. I was worried you were going to take that into the, shall I say, realm of paranoia.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could decide that somebody's after you.
I was going to say, or you could go fully into essentially this idea of conspiracy theories. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, you could. You could. I think for me, I've always been able to decide things into the positive direction. But, I have realized that there are people that do decide things into the negative direction for themselves and then get bogged down by it. Now, at the same time, too, like in terms of our Christian faith, I don't decide that Christ is true and he is true.
Okay.
I know there's a line there. There's a line there.
Yeah, I was wondering how far you were going to go with it.
It's not that far. But there are things that I can improve about my life by deciding things are true. Yes, and there's a lines. And I was discussing this with my wife because we were asking one of our daughters to do something with my other daughters because two of my daughters had decided one thing and the other daughter was opposed to it. And she was being vehemently opposed to something small. I mean, basically, it was the choice of restaurant, right? She was being vehemently opposed to a choice of restaurant. And it's like, just decide you're going to have fun. Like, there are foods you like at this restaurant. It's not the end of the world. Just accept the fact. There are foods you will like here. Like, come and eat. Like, what's the big deal? Like, to me, it was like, just decide you're going to have fun here. But to me, I've come to that realization that I can do that. And not everybody has come to the realization they can do that. But I think this is one of the movies that started that for me, that formation of thought. Yeah, and you can't apply that to everything. But it does work in a lot of situations like that. Like, look, okay, these 5 people want to go to this place. My choice is this. My choice is either not going or going and having fun because I'm going to decide that if I'm going to go, I'm going to have fun. So therefore, let's look for the fun. Where's the fun? What can I do to have the fun, right? So anyway, it was kind of a formative movie for me in some ways. I don't think everybody took that message from it, but it's one that I took. Also, the sliding cell phones were pretty cool.
Ah, yes. Sliding cell phones.
Yeah, I still kind of wonder how they go in and out of the Matrix with landline telephones. Like, some things don't still quite make sense to me. But anyway, and there's a lot of shoot 'em up, blow 'em up. The scene at the bank was kind of long. But anyway, it is a fun movie.
I'm sorry. I'm just laughing because I'm like, you do realize that is what a lot of other people are like, this is the best part of the movie. And you're just like, it's too long.
It just took forever, that part. It's so long. But you got to see Mr. Anderson. There's a lot of fun with Agent Smith. That's for sure. Anyway, it was a good movie. Yeah, I think one of the things that really resonated with me, though, is that just in a lot of things, you can just decide. Just decide you're going to have fun. Just decide you're going to be in charge of your situation. Not of everyone else's situation, but you can be in charge of your situation.
Yeah.
You can't be in charge of everybody by just deciding it, though. That doesn't work. As much as what some people think they can do, you really can't. You can just be in charge of your situation.
Well, yeah, I think it's a great movie. Now, here's the problem. And why I was having a struggle deciding on games earlier was because there are lots of good games that are post-apocalypse. Because, just listing off a bunch that came to my mind, there is the BioShock games. There's Inside, which is a fun game where you are in essentially a 1984 kind of world. There is the Nier games. There is Mirror's Edge. There is so many different games that are just like jumping out at me that I'm like, oh, there was one that was just really silly that I also remember. No Straight Roads, which is basically a post-apocalypse where everything is now powered by the power of music.
Okay.
It was a rhythm action game. It was fun. But I think for simplicity's sake and for the fact that it is just such a good game, I'm going to pick the Horizon games.
Okay.
So that is Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West are both Horizon games. I'm going to mostly focus on Zero Dawn because that's the first one, and that one's older, so I don't feel so bad about spoiling things. So Horizon Zero Dawn is a game in a future where there is lots of old skyscrapers, old buildings, and they're all overgrown, and basically it looks like the Earth has essentially reclaimed what used to be humanity, and humans still exist. And the only other large creatures in this world are giant robotic dinosaurs. And I know that sounds crazy, but you're gonna have to go with me on that one.
Yeah, who powers them? How does that all work?
Well, how much do you care about spoilers? Because I know you're definitely going to go out and play this game.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to go out and play this game.
All right. So what is revealed through game one, again, I'm okay spoiling game one because it came out in 2017. So we're talking 7 years old now? Yeah, that's fine to spoil. So at a certain point in the game, your character comes across an old building where they find some like old records. And this is actually like a future on Earth. Like it's placed in a future on Earth. Humanity had gotten to the point where they were trying to fix all of the environmental damage that we had done. And so they had started creating robots that could eat waste and then turn it into something productive. And it was all run by AIs and things like that, including things like being able to break down like carbon-based products and turn them into something, like fertilizer.
So the dinosaurs ate everyone.
Yeah. So
Uh-huh.
What happened was this was originally designed to reverse global climate change. And the long and the short is the AIs that were controlling this stuff got out of control and turned the robots on humanity and started destroying most of humanity and left them kind of desolate. And so what remains of humanity after the robots take over is what are these tiny little towns. And then this world that you're in is supposed to be like thousands of years after all of this has happened, essentially what is left of humanity. And so all of these buildings and all of these different things are like, yes, the ancients, they did some things, and this is why our world is the way that it is. And it referring to our time as the ancients, the forerunners, and those kind of like really ancient kind of words. But yes, the original game is supposed to be Colorado, Wyoming, and Utah in the 31st century.
It's a pretty big area.
Yeah. And the second game takes place in California.
But did they run into the apes, from the Planet of the Apes?
No, because the Planet of the Apes, those apes probably got eaten by dinosaurs too.
That's why the Statue of Liberty is still standing.
But yeah, it's very interesting. I will say that one of the cool things is how all of the robot dinosaurs in the game have evolved into different shapes. I say robot dinosaurs because that's the shape that's like most identifiable, but there are some that like look like antelope and look like alligators and things like that. It's a fun game.
Yeah, it looks interesting.
I think that if it weren't one of those games that takes dozens of hours to play through, I would try to get you to play it, but I can barely get you to play a game that takes 10 hours.
I know. That's because I spent 5 minutes on Disco Zoo today. I'm doing good.
So, yeah, there are lots of games that go into this kind of dystopian, kind of post-apocalyptic kind of world, and, it's a good genre for this kind of game.
Well, we skipped a bunch. We skipped Hunger Games, Planet of the Apes. We skipped a bunch of more stuff.
Yeah.
We can save them for the next time. We can have another pick two. It's not pick two best, it's just pick two.
Yeah, this is a dense field, I will say.
Yeah. We can come back. We're probably going to read more post-apocalyptic books, so we can come back to this again another time.
What makes you think we're going to read more post-apocalyptic books? Because, what's the most recent post-apocalyptic book we've read? Oh, yeah, The Monk and the Robot is post-apocalyptic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we read these.
We read these on occasion. I will say that the other day I was going home, and at the same time I was going home, the head of school was also going home. I mentioned that my plans for the weekend were essentially to lounge around reading books, playing games, and just relaxing. And he was like, oh, so what books are you reading right now? And I'm like, well, I'm wrapping up the Broken Earth series, which is a dystopian story. And he's like, I haven't read a lot of dystopian recently. I think I've just gotten out of it. And I was like, I think that I think the phrase I used was, it's not normally my go-to, but But then again, you're right. I think I don't go to dystopian too much, but post-apocalypse I tend to go to a lot. I don't know why I would separate those two, but I think that is a big thing. I think the vibe of the dystopian world is not normally one of my go-tos, though.
But that's why you really liked City of Ember. City of Ember was really good. It was just the second book that bothered you.
Yeah, because City of Ember was a post-apocalypse. They were at least trying to survive, whereas the one that shall not be named basically went into all of the normal dystopian tropes of man is the real monster. And I get bored of that sometimes. Because, let's face it, I already know man's the real monster.
Yeah. Well, and the problem was that adults were... Anyway, never mind.
The adults were so dumb.
Yeah. The adults were dumb. That was the problem.
No, there were more problems than that. But the adults were dumb was a aggravator of those problems. But yeah, no, I mean, I didn't even mention the Fallout games, which is basically the world has blown up due to nuclear apocalypse and the people who survive afterwards, which is, it's a decent game.
By the way, Ryan, we're missing the big sports ball event going on.
There's a sports ball event going on?
Yeah, Taylor Swift's going to be there. Sorry. That's the big news, right? I don't even know who's playing. Apparently that Kansas City team.
The chefs?
The chefs. Yeah, the chefs. That's a great ad. I love that ad.
You know, as I mentioned earlier, I am not one who normally watches a whole lot of sports ball.
I don't watch the sports ball. I don't listen to the Taylor Swift. I'm missing out on everything, apparently.
Quite honestly, this is a set of things that is just not a good fit for somebody of my interests.
Well, and you know, when you don't get to watch the ads in Japan, the Super Bowl kind of loses half the meaning right there.
What are you talking about? Half? 75%.
75%. You know, you just don't get the ads in Japan, or at least they're ads for other things. It's not the same amount of money spent.
No, quite honestly, you know, I respect that some people love that sport. That's about all I can say.
It's got to be. It's going on right now, I think, right?
I'm sure it is.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's its second quarter. Look at this. Live updates from Google.
Live updates from Google. So, yes, as we record, it's the second quarter of the Super Sports Bowl.
And the San Francisco 49ers are up 3-0.
Oh, no. Oh, no. What will ever happen?
Right. You know, and this obviously doesn't have the most important stat of how many times they've shown Taylor Swift on TV, who was just in Japan, so she's in the same time zone we are. She's just waking up about that. Sorry. Well,
on that note, I think it's about time that we take our product placement break of Kelpis.
I know. Yep, we are sponsored not by Kelpis, but should be, again.
Oh, gosh. So we have a mango Olay.
Mango Olay. Orange and mango. Olay go.
So you brought me this Kelpis, which shows me that you truly, truly hate me.
Yeah. That's not exactly how you take it, but yeah, okay.
And so I see that there is vitamin B6 in here and 1% of fruit juice.
It's a burst. Hajikeru is translating to burst. That's
burst.
At least on Google. So maybe this is going to be flavorful, Ryan. Orange and mango together.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Orange and mango together sound like it might be okay, but the problem is there's Kelpis mixed in.
1% fruit juice, though, you know, still.
If it was mango and orange and just soda water, sure, that'd be great. I could get on board with that. But no. You had to add the Kelpis.
Yeah, well, I didn't add it. It came with it. And it looked glorious.
Horrifying.
Sitting on the shelf. Well, that too. Might be okay.
All right. Are we going to mention the fact that it's expired as well?
I was going to leave that off because we just need to record more often, I think, right? I was going to send that to you as a text, too. It was like, maybe we shouldn't be buying as many drinks so far in the future.
Well, we only have like 2 more drinks after this, I think, right?
They don't expire till April, I checked.
All right. And I think we'll record twice before April.
Hopefully. And there was another Kelpis on the shelf, and I almost bought it, but I decided not to. It was a melon Kelpis, which I think we already had at least one other melon Kelpis, so I decided not to.
Oh, thank you.
Orange and mango. Let's see.
All right.
Ooh, smells very orange.
I'm getting a lot of mango from my end.
Yeah, definitely more mango taste, right? Smell too, I guess you're saying. Yeah. I think it's pretty good, Ryan. I am liking it.
The problem is...
The problem is not the Calpis.
No, the problem is the Calpis.
I disagree.
I really think that this would actually be better without the Calpis.
Really?
Although they would need to replace the Calpis with something else.
Equally sweet, you think? I mean, I think the Calpis is adding some sweetness, that's for sure.
But the problem is, I think it's sweet enough with just mango and orange.
Could be.
I think that just a mango and an orange and give it a little bit of fizz with the soda, I think you'd be fine. But the Calpis is adding that lactic taste.
Yeah. I was appreciating that, though.
Yeah, you appreciate that, though.
I think I like it.
I think it's okay.
Yes. I think adding the mango and the orange has bettered the flavor of Calpis in this case.
Well, yes. That's an atari mai.
Well, some of our drinks do subtract. This one does better.
I don't know. You can only go up from Calpis. When you're at rock bottom, there's only one direction to go. All right, so brain, what is brain?
I think I'm going to do 7.
Whew.
It's either 7 or 8 is what I'm trying to figure out. I could possibly go 8. Yeah, I think I'm going to go 8. It's up there with that cold peach.
Yep.
I think
it's a 6.
Well, all right. We can disagree.
Often we do. Perhaps not often, but occasionally we do.
I think this is pretty good. I think it would have been better if we drank it in the summer when I bought it, but it would have fit better at the temperature. But it's pretty good.
It's fine. It's fine.
You didn't like it, but that's okay. It's okay.
I mean, it's better than average.
Better than average. It's not your lowest Calpis.
Oh, definitely not my lowest Calpis. My lowest Calpis is...
Calpis ginger ale.
Yeah. I mean, I've had higher Calpises and I've had lower Calpises. This is a Calpis.
Good. All right, the next one.
The next one I am looking forward to.
Next one looks good. My wife found this, and I've held them back from her because she was going to finish the rest of the bag. And I said, no, wait till I do the podcast. So now I'm going to give them to my wife.
So, Ichigo no...
Yes, this is strawberry shortcake flavor. Actually, I just bought strawberry shortcake yesterday.
Yeah.
From the store.
So, from the outward appearance, it looks like there's like chunks of strawberry in white chocolate. And the wafer looks a little pinky.
Oh, you're seeing that from the cover. Okay.
Well, no, I broke it in half.
Oh, you broke it in half. It's pinky, huh? Okay.
Oh, it looks like the substance between the wafer is pink.
Okay. So strawberry mixed together. Looks interesting.
Yeah, it looks very interesting.
Let's give it a go.
All right.
Yeah, it's definitely strong on the strawberry. I would say it's a little more strawberry milk flavored than strawberry shortcake flavored.
Yeah. That being said, we had strawberry milk before, and I remember that one specifically tasting very milky.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, we did have strawberry milk before.
This one is very heavy on the strawberry. I'm not tasting a whole lot of shortcake, but I mean, what is the flavor of a shortcake?
Yeah.
I like it.
Yes, I do like it. My struggle is that it feels a little bit mislabeled. It's not that I don't like it. I do like it.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, it always feels to me that Kit Kats, for me at the very least, most of them kind of live in this range of like 5, 6, 7.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the question is, because pretty much falling outside of that range means something is either fantastic or something has gone drastically wrong.
I don't know. I think I'm actually going to go 8 on this. It's actually pretty high, I think. I actually really like this strawberry.
Yep. I agree with that. 8. I was trying to think through what we've had in the past and thinking through going, okay, all these other ones that I gave 7s to, this is definitely better than that. I could even be convinced up to a 9 maybe. But the problem is, There are a couple of other 8s that I've given in the past that probably should also be 9s if I consider this a 9.
Yeah.
I would have to reestablish my ranking system.
I think the chestnut is underranked. I've had more of those. That's underranked.
Yeah, I think the chestnut was underranked. I think the mint maybe was underranked for me too. Mm-hmm. Oh, raspberry was underranked. I have raspberry at 8. If I'm making this one a 9, I would have to make that one a 9 as well. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think, you know what? I'm going to make this a 9 if I keep talking about the fact that I've misranked things in the past.
Oh, so that you can start your ranking again.
I'm going to, from today forward, try to be deliberate about giving that difference, because a lot of times I say, oh, this is a 5 pointing up or a 6 pointing down. The problem is I've left everything in that little range that I'm just not giving enough variety. So I need to actually utilize the ends of the spectrum.
Right, because actually we've not used 10 ever.
We've never used 10, and this isn't a 10, but this is definitely really good. But also, we've never used 10s, and I think the lowest I've gone on a Kit Kat was a 4.
Yeah.
That was cheesecake.
I had a 3 in there. You're almost convincing me to make this a 9, because it is not my favorite, but it is very close to being my favorite. So I guess that's what 9 means, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing is, the only other times I've used a 9 were for, like, peach.
My favorites.
Were
but
like peach,
they should have been 10.
Mint. No, mint I only put an 8 on. Whoa.
Yeah, I know. And chestnut we only put 7s on too.
Yeah, no.
Okay. I'm making it 9.
And I think we need to be very deliberate about actually utilizing the ends of our spectrum, because otherwise, really, we're making this a 5-star system.
Yeah, a 5-star system between 4 and 8.
Yeah. And that's not what we want to do, I think.
All right, good. Hey, not bad. These were good ones. Well, for me they were. For you, a little less so.
Well, the Kit Kats were good.
To me, the Kit Kat and the compass was good.
The Kit Kats were good.
I had you finish the series that you got me started on. That I read, because I stole your book, read it first, and now we finished that series.
Yeah. I won't say that I'm still a little bitter about that. But, yes, you are correct. We decided that we were going to finish out the Broken Earth series. Mm-hmm. The Stone Sky is our final book, which was written in 2017.
By N.K Jemisin.
Yes. So, back in 2017, she wrote the third and final book of the Broken Earth series called The Stone Sky.
And won third consecutive Hugo for her. So she won Hugos for all 3 of these novels. And this is the third one in that line. And then she took the year off after that. Sorry, just kidding.
Yeah. It is one of those things where you're like, you know, if N.K Jemisin has written a book, does anybody else have a chance to get that Hugo? The Stone Sky, as we have mentioned several times, is the third book in the Broken Earth series. This is the conclusion of Aesun's story. Do you disagree with that statement?
I don't disagree. I think it is a conclusion. I mean, I guess she could possibly take this further, but I think it is a good stopping point, at least.
Yeah. Well, it is the conclusion of Aesun's story, I will say.
As a human.
I was just going to say, who knows what her name will be.
Oh, that's true. I guess you could change her name, yeah.
She's changed her name at every other stage of her life. Why would she not change it now?
Good point. In her afterlife?
Yeah, I mean, seriously, she changed it when she was Demaya to Cyanite to be Aesun. Why would she keep that name after this point? After she's died? But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yep.
Especially because we haven't even given our spoiler warning yet.
I know.
All right, so for those of you who have not read this book, once again, we always have to say we recommend that you read the book first before you listen to anything we're going to say, because we are going straight into spoiler territory, especially because this is book 3 of a series where Aesun has journeyed across the Stillness trying to save her daughter throughout 2 books so far. And this is the conclusion of her trying to do that and trying to save the world and trying to catch the moon.
Yeah.
All right. So, Nate.
Yes. I guess we could both ask each other. What did you think?
I thought this was a very satisfying ending.
Yes, me too. It wrapped up lots of things nicely in bows, didn't it?
Oh, it did. It did. I was wondering how it was going to go throughout so much of this book. And then at a certain point, so I tend to do a lot of my reading like by doing audiobook and doing something else while I am doing it. But for me, there was so much going on and so many details that at a certain point, I actually put down everything else, continued listening to the audiobook, and then picked up the physical book to read alongside it.
Yep. No, actually, that's one of the things I want to talk about first is the pacing of this book is quite interesting to me. Because I don't control the pace that the audio person reads, they read the same pace throughout the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
But my feeling at the beginning was this book is moving very slowly because I wanted to get further to the end. But there were still a lot of things to put in place, really. There still were. And then to read all the backstory of Cilia, which I want to get into later.
Yeah.
There was that too. But then all of a sudden, and like actually, like we texted yesterday, right at like halfway through Cilia 0 to the end, like that's like a 3.5, 4 hour portion of the audiobook. It just picks up. Does the pace pick up? Do you need to be listening to every word at that point? Oh my goodness, yes. Like you have to be picking everything up, catching everything. You can't be blinking. Oh my goodness.
I will say that for me, the part where I put everything else down and picked up the physical book to read alongside the audiobook was at the beginning of Cilia 0.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, even a little bit before that, even when Shafa all of a sudden dies, it's like, wait a minute. Shafa dies? Just right here, right now? Wait, what?
Yeah. And he didn't necessarily die.
Well, yeah.
He broke. His mind broke.
Right. Which makes sense, right? Because Shafa's been fighting Father Earth the whole time, yet he approached him, and then Father Earth magic just took over and ruined his brain.
Yeah, basically, it was the idea that like he's been fighting Father Earth, and then to get to their final location, they had to go through the Earth.
Right.
And so this thing that he was able to fight from a distance for so long, he now was essentially now standing right next to. Mm-hmm. Oh. And so, yeah, he was bombarded with everything, and his mind broke. In the words of the book, he went somewhere else.
No, very good. I mean, I was reading along, and I turned my wife and say, "Our main character just died." Like, what's happening again? Whoa. Anyway, very good.
Yeah, and I will say, speaking of main characters dying, there were some that died, and there was just no fanfare.
Oh, I know. Lerna's death at the end?
I know.
It's like, oh my good. I mean, we were joking in the previous book that everyone, like, she just kills off her loved ones, right? And it's like, this one is like, whoa, Lerna just dies. And it's like, there's nothing she can do. I mean, yes, she spends a little bit of time mourning, but man, the book moves on. The book moves on.
Well, she lands there. She spends like half a moment mourning and then realizes that she doesn't have the time to mourn because she has to get this thing done. Otherwise, the world is not going to survive.
Yep. That was rough. That was very rough. I mean, a character Lerna, Shafa, they've been with us since the beginning of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
Yeah, I will say that one was the biggest shock to me because it was the fact that it was done without fanfare. It was. And he's dead.
Right. And Hoa doesn't really apologize. I mean,
Well, I mean, what could he have done? He was being attacked.
Yes, exactly. And he didn't expect it. And yeah, maybe he could have expected, but at the same time, I understand like somebody saying, great, we're finally going to do this and we're all going to go together and do it. And then realize, wait a minute, oh yeah, there are people that don't want us to do that. I mean, he knew that, but he just didn't expect them to attack. Yep. It was difficult to read. Because it was well written, and it was difficult because it was well written. Yeah,
I think the fact that it was done without fanfare, to me, signified two things. Number one, yes, it gave that importance to what she is there for. What is her goal here? what is the thing that she has to accomplish. But also, it emphasized, in this awful, awful world, sometimes people die. Sometimes people don't make it, and you don't have the time to grieve. And sometimes people die and there is no fanfare. It's not always this epic story. Sometimes people just die.
Now, what do you think the purpose of, and somebody who died without fanfare is Essen's baby again, right?
Oh, yeah.
What was the purpose of
making her pregnant again?
Yeah.
I think it was the fact that it then added
more depth to Lerna's dying, right?
Well, it added a little bit more depth to Lerna's dying, but it also added a little bit more
tension for her.
Tension and conflict, because it's I know that if I do this, I'm going to die, and she had been okay with that. But it's the driving force throughout the entire story has been her love for her children.
Right. And in her death, she has to choose between her children, her unborn child and the child she has in front of her.
And so she, in this choice, is choosing the child who is already alive rather than the unborn child, because, in her words, the one had more chance.
And I guess almost nobody else knew, right? Only Lerna and Essa knew that she was pregnant. That wasn't even spread to Tanki or others.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which also, the fact that both of them passed away in that final battle meant that also Lerna couldn't grieve over that.
Right.
Because if he had still been alive at the end, he has now lost his unborn child and the woman he loves.
Right. That would have been tough.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to the backstory of Cilia just for a bit.
Okay.
One of the things I was wondering in this final book, because it did seem like, after Obelisk Gate, things were coming to a head pretty quickly. How is this book going to pad it out a little bit? Like, how is it going to
be a full-length novel?
Right. Not just run to the end. And the backstory of Cilia, I think, actually works pretty well. Cilia.
Yeah, I think that it was necessary because otherwise you are still stuck in this world where the moon has been sent away and you have no idea why.
Right. Where do these obelisks come from?
Why is Father Earth so angry?
Right. It answers that question very well. Because they were trying to yoke him and harness him.
They were trying to essentially enslave him.
Yeah.
And be parasites off of the earth.
Right, when they didn't even have to be, right? It seemed to be that they were just trying to be greedy.
Well, not necessarily. It seemed that the way that they were expressing it, it sounded that, yes, they had enough to survive, but the more and more they kept doing, the more energy demands they had, and their energy demands weren't going to keep up.
Right, because they kept basing all of their news technology off this magic.
Which, can I just say for a moment, when your magic is based upon essentially burning up and consuming life energy, and you then base your energy grid on consuming life energy, what does that mean? Are you burning souls for energy?
That was a little bit confusing to me. I was letting it pass because I didn't really want to figure the answer out to that.
Because honestly, I think in this world, it feels like you're kind of burning up souls for energy.
Is that where they put those people? The people the Stone Eaters are based on?
They put them in the Briar Patch because the life energy is produced by living, by memories, by experiences, by continued life. So to me, that magic being produced by life and energy and experience and all these things, it feels like essentially magic is produced by one's being, one's soul, one's essence, one's existence.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so now, I mean, I will say that this isn't the first story that I've come across where the energy system is life essence, but this definitely dwells into what that means. She does it so well. It's such an interesting way of expressing this idea that essentially all of their energy is produced by exploiting other people or exploiting what is left of people. Now, can we say we aren't doing that with oil? But I mean, how is oil produced?
Well, actually, my daughter's asked me that. As I said that it's called fossil fuels because we based all our oil off of dinosaurs. She's like, wait a minute, are we burning dinosaurs?
The answer is yes.
I did also think the story of them creating the Stone Eater type people, the tuners, or they were calling them at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Stone Eaters realizing how disgraced they actually were, and the backstory there was quite interesting also.
Oh, yeah. Because it was getting into the fact that, like, they were, in their minds, created to be the pinnacle of all of this work, the highest esteem, and yet they were really created as a callback to the boogeyman. I put it that way because it is a callback to everything the society feared about this other group of people, this other race,
the other species, yeah.
Well,
there were a race of humans, I guess.
Or another race of humans, yeah.
Yep. Although I definitely was reading about the VMO and couldn't think of anything but the cat bus. My daughter was actually doing a project in school, and she was drawing the cat bus. Like, she had drawn that picture, and I had looked at her drawing of the picture, and I was like, that's pretty good. And then I read that chapter, and I'm like, the cat bus. This is the cat bus from Totoro. Speaking of Miyazaki earlier, this is the cat bus from My Neighbor Totoro. Very funny.
The cat bus running through the core of the earth to get to the other side.
Yep, smiling the whole way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's what I saw. I think that's what she meant.
You do realize by saying that is now going to be the only image in my head anytime I read this book again.
Oh, you didn't think that right away?
No, because they were describing cilia.
Yeah. Well, but the cat bus has hair, but not cilia, yeah.
Yeah, I was imagining like a bacteria, a giant bacteria.
Yeah.
And just going. But yeah, now thanks to that, all that's going to be in my head is the cat bus running through the core of the earth.
That's what it was. I mean, that's what I was picturing. It's a cat bus with cilia instead of hair. That's all. But yeah, that was pretty funny to me.
That is great.
I think it was good that it didn't come down to a mother-daughter battle.
Yeah, and I will say I was so afraid that was going to be the case.
No, and that's why I wanted to bring, because you mentioned that earlier too, that this was going to be a showdown between Esun and Nasun and who's going to win.
And it technically was that. But
at the same time, it was a little bit more mentor-ish, just like Alabaster slaps down Esun to teach her. It was a little bit more like that as opposed to I'm going to fight against you.
Yeah, and not just that. For me, I think the big thing that really stood out was it was that fight until Esun realized, I don't know if it was the fact that she realized that she is her daughter and all the good and bad. Actually, one of the lines I also remember is the fact that when she is grieving over the fact that she made Nasun her. She made Nasun just like Esun. So, yeah, it was a struggle, but the struggle ended not through a battle, and it was that fight, but it ended with Esun basically saying, I don't want to destroy you, so I am going to willingly lose. I am going to willingly let you take this and trust in you.
Right. And the fact that then when Nasun sees that, then follows through with her mother's wishes and moves the moon, catches the moon.
Yeah. I did like that the Onyx was able to remember essentially the command.
I was wondering if that was convenient, but I think that's still earned.
I think it's earned, but the reason why I think it's earned is because it feels like, I mean, remember, this entire thing was a machine.
Yes, right.
It was a giant program. It was a giant computer. So it would remember the command. I imagined it as if, like, with my dying breath, I had something written into a terminal command, and it was asking if I wanted to execute it, yes or no. And then I got hit by a bus right before I hit yes. somebody could come in and look at the terminal commands I had just entered and been like, oh, this is what he was trying to do.
Right. So, yep, I think it was earned. All right, now I think to the best thing. The best thing to me, the realization, the sum up even of why is the first book in second person is because this whole story, all 3 books are here to tell Essun, as she's taking her new form, about her past.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, these books are basically a chronicle, because he says, in change, there's always loss of memory.
Yep.
So even though he's taken precaution so that she doesn't lose as much of her memory as possible, these books are to tell her about herself in her new form. So I don't know. That sum right there, that summation of the whole series really made this for me.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, the whole plot was great, but the summation of this made even yet another layer of greatness on top of everything that was already great, right?
Exactly. I definitely was expecting that she was going to become a Stone Eater by the end of book 3.
Yeah, because Alabaster did, right?
Because Alabaster did.
When we learned that he could, well, then Essun is going to be able to also.
Yeah. But I still didn't make that connection until that final chapter that, yeah, okay, he's saying that he's telling this entire story to the new Essun.
No, I didn't make the connection to the end either, right? I mean, even when he explained, because he explained it halfway through this book, I think, that there's memory loss in the change and that Alabaster was rushed through the process. So he probably has memory loss. Even there, I didn't catch it.
Yeah, and that it'll probably take like hundreds of years before he actually remembers who he is. But I think the line at the end where, I'm not anxious. What do you want? You consider, I listen to the slow ongoing roar of the volcano deep down here in the deep. Then you say, I want the world to be better.
Yep. I listened to that part again, specifically. It's like, yep, good stuff right there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that shows that she is her.
Even if she has a few missing memory spots, she remained her.
Yes.
So, yep, very good.
Because at the end, the thing that she really wants is for the world to be better.
Right.
To be a better place than this broken world built on the suffering of others. She wants the world to be what it could be. And I think that, yes, that's who she is. That's who she has been since the beginning, since she was Demaya. That she wanted the world to be kinder, to be right, to be just. And one of the things that I really liked was the fact that it talked about, several times in the books, it talked about the thing that made Onyx listen to people. Mm-hmm. It was this idea that the Onyx, having a personality, it listened to people when, yes, they had experienced pain, but also when they wanted, essentially, things to be made right. They had that determination. They had a desire for justice. And I thought that just felt so right considering how those obelisks were made. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I thought this was an excellent conclusion to everything.
Good conclusion. Glad we've read it.
I think that this ended really great. I think that I am just thrilled with having been given the chance to go on this journey. I'm a little sad that it's over, but I'm also very happy that she didn't stretch it out longer than it needed to.
Right.
Because one of those things that can always happen with really good books is they stretch out so long that they lose everything that was great about them. And I feel like she didn't do that with The Broken Earth. She just had a story to tell. She told the story, and it was told brilliantly.
Well, and even like leaving a bit of the story like, okay, Nasun and all of them are going to go back in the Viamul, and then they're going to have to trek all the way to Castrema again. Like there's a whole lot of story that's going to go on after this book is ended. And we're going to believe that they're all going to make it, I guess. It's just amazing how much is going on and how much is left to go on. And I do think that if there's more stories in this world, it should be following somebody else. Mm-hmm. Following another whole storyline. Something that was affected, but possibly not these characters, or maybe touches on these characters or something like that.
I hate to say it, but I think this needs to stay here. I think it needs to end here. I wouldn't go back to this world.
Yeah. I can see that.
The prime candidate for continuing to go back to the same worlds, Sanderson.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of that example, right? The Wax and Wayne series.
The Wax and Wayne series. The reason why that worked, though, is because it was so significantly far in the future.
Yeah.
So it would have to be like in a world where everything that Aesun and Nasun have done is now legend.
I mean, yes. I mean, because I love again, the setup of this, too. The setup of what are Fulcrum's going to look like now in Nasun's reign. And that Nasun is learning that she can control the world without origenic powers, right? Which is what Yika knows as well, too. Yes, Yika's an origin, but she's not controlling the world through her origin powers. She's controlling the world being a good leader who connects with her people and understands what's going on and understands all the sides to all of the problems and then makes wise decisions beyond that. So yes, there are ways to do this. And yeah, so leaving all... I love touching. She touches on that storyline, brushes it, and say, "Look, and there's a whole painting over there, but we're just gonna brush it and move on, right?" And even with this, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that going on here too. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nope. I'm just glad it didn't turn into a Wheel of Time length series.
Yes. This story should drop here.
Yep.
The earliest it should be picked up is when Nasun is 65 and she's the grand headmistress of the
New Fulcrum or whatever they
the
call
New
it now.
Fulcrum, and she's now passing. And what's the next stage for the New Fulcrum?
Except she can't use.
She can't use magic. No, she can't
use magic. She can't use orogeny. She can't do any of it.
Mm-hmm. So she's just the grand advisor or whatever. Anyway, let's not write those books. Let's leave them.
Yep, sounds good to me.
All right, Ryan, next time you have a book for me.
I do. I'm trying to remember what book I'm having you read. Weird Sisters! Good. Awesome. So we're going to continue back into Pratchett.
This is the Witch's book, right, though?
This is the Witch's book. This is the Witch's book 2.
Okay.
So you've read Equal Rights, and this is the first one where you get to meet the full Witch's Circle.
Yeah, because we were only introduced to the girl earlier on.
You were
forget her name now.
Esk,
yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, you met Esk. You will not meet Esk again.
Oh, okay. New characters. I need to get used to that in Pratchett.
Well, not just that. Not all new characters.
Okay.
You remember there was one person who traveled with Esk.
Yeah, the boy. I forget his name now.
No, the older woman.
Oh, yes.
Granny Weatherwax.
Yes.
Granny, I'm going to tell you right now, Granny Weatherwax is ostensibly the main character of most of the Witches series.
Oh, okay.
She is going to be, every time we come back to the Witches series, she is pretty much one of the main characters, if not the main character. Weird Sisters is where she really starts taking that front seat of everything going on.
Okay.
But there are 3 witches in Weird Sisters who everything circles around. There is Nanny Ogg, Granny Weatherwax, and Margit.
Okay. Well, I look forward to reading it.
Yeah, it's a good book. I think that this is gonna be a fun ride. I will tell you, how much do you know about Shakespeare?
A little bit.
All right.
Here and there.
There are going to be a lot of Shakespeare references in this one.
Okay.
Just to give you a heads up on that.
Makes sense. He is British.
Well, not just that. If you haven't noticed yet, Pratchett loves to have essentially something that he's making a parody of in each of his stories. And a lot of them have kind of a through line parody. So, for example, with Reaper Man, some of the things that he was hitting on were things like the fact that a shopping center in a shopping mall was essentially the death of a city, or the death of life in the city, or a parasite, and little things like that. In this one, he gets a little bit more literary. Weird Sisters is all about like lots of references to Shakespeare. But yeah, I think it'll be fun. We hope you found something nice about this hill that we're willing to die on, and we appreciate all of our listeners coming along on this journey with us. But if you ever thought to yourself, hey, I really like these guys and what they do, I just wish I could support them, you can. Visit myhilltodieon.com/members for more details. But what does it mean to be a member? Well, for the low price of $2 a month or $15 a year, you can help support this podcast. And by doing so, you can get access to the members-only podcast, Not My Hill, which is where we discuss all the things that are, well, somebody else's hill to die on, not ours. We have very strong feelings about them, but as the title says, they're definitely not hills that we're willing to die on. In addition to this, you also get access to the suggestion form where you can make suggestions to our Listener Hill episodes, where we will watch, read, or climb up a hill that you're willing to die on, and we talk all about it. But know that the conversation doesn't have to end here. The discussion can continue with us through Reddit at the subreddit My Hill to Die On, or contacting us through email, which is, to no one's surprise, myhilltodieon@gmail.com. And finally, we upload all of our episodes to our YouTube channel, which is also named, say it with me now folks, My Hill to Die On. I have a very boring life. What can I say?
I'm not sure that's what it is, but okay.
I have a very simple life.
There you go. There you go. That's a better word.
I am a very simple man. No, that's not
no,
true.
I'm not sure that works either. No.
No. If I picked from games, there is a possibility that I'll be able to talk about a game that we haven't talked about yet. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, let me just double check.
Well, and I'm not sniping you on a game either.
All right. I've already talked about that one, so that one's getting off the list. And what was the other one? All right. So let's start with a movie. And I'm going to pick Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind.
Oh, I have not seen this one yet.
You haven't seen Nausicaa?
No, I mean, really, I've only seen like 3. I've only fully seen like 3 Miyazaki movies.
Oh.
Kiki, Totoro, and...
Oh, if I knew you hadn't seen it, I would have made that a pick.
Well, you still could, I guess. You still could. Just picking it here doesn't disqualify it.
Well, no, if I'm going to make it a pick, then I might not talk about it here.
Okay. Yeah, this is one I haven't seen. What's the one you picked a while back? Mononoke.
Yeah, Mononoke. Still, that's the one that really got me into his movies. But...
I've never seen Ponyo all the way through. I've seen bits of it in the doctor's office waiting room. I've never seen it all the way through. Anyway, I own Totoro and Kiki now. I don't own anything else.
Gotcha.
And Mononoke Hime, I watched once in college and once with you. So I've only really watched that twice. Yes, so I've only seen 3. Although I've read the book of Arrietty. And isn't one of them based on Ursula Le Guin book too, or no? Maybe that's
oh yes, that's Earthsea.
Yeah, which book is that? He actually did a one called Earthsea.
Yeah, he did one called Earthsea, which is based on the Wizard of Earthsea series.
Yeah, gotta watch that sometime. Anyway, okay, sorry. So are you gonna pick this, or are you gonna move back?
No, I'm gonna move back.
Okay.
Sorry.
This is gonna be fun to edit.
Keep in mind, that's why I was trying to stop us so that we didn't go too far into it. If you notice, there will be a lot of times where I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Don't threaten me. I might actually do it. Because I know at least one other person who would really get into this.
Keith?
Yeah. He's played it before. I only got to play this once. But he told me one story of one time that he got to play it, and one of his friends brought a tape recorder and recorded everything that went on the tape recorder, and then so that he could play it back to friend computer later. And then one time that friend went to the bathroom, and while they were away, apparently Keith and all the other people at the table re-recorded over top of everything he had just been recording to then essentially be things that would out him as a traitor to friend computer. And so when he went to play it, it was basically him outing himself as a traitor to friend computer.
Nasty, nasty.
So it's things like that. Did you hear what I said?
Sorry, I was just scratching my head, and I knocked my headphones right off my head. Sorry, you're gonna make this a 9?
I will say having the physical book beside me to reference was really nice.
Yep, probably.
Because so often I realize that I'm like making references to things and I can't figure out like the word. But having the physical book next to me was really nice. I was spoiled by that.